Call to order the Tuesday, August the 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Idle County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I'd ask you to please bow your head in silent prayer and lift up our country, our state, our county, and our communities. You'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Ms. Knoll, if you'd please review any adjustments to the agenda.
Thank you, Chairman Mallory. We did provide to the board an amended agenda, and to detail those changes, we had some renumbering of some of our administrative matters. Then we moved from new business to administrative matters, item 8.9, the Board of Elections salaries, and then removed economic development from closed session.
Okay, are there any further adjustments to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda as adjusted?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Norman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. There are no presentations of any awards or recognitions this evening. I will mention that we have at least two long-serving members of our staff that we will recognize 2 weeks from now. Becky Gallagher, who is retiring from our Board of Elections as a director of some 20 years, and Dean Lale, who has been the head of our purchasing department, is also retiring, so we'll be recognizing them at our next meeting. There are no appointments before the board, and we'll move right to our public hearings. The first is a public hearing to consider a request by Sandra Johnson and Gary Bowles to release zoning and subdivision jurisdiction to the Town of Mooresville. And Mr. Matthew Todd will tee that up for us.
Good evening to the board. The request we have before us tonight is outlined in blue on the screen. Currently zoned residential agricultural. You can see it is adjacent to Mooresville's jurisdiction already with the crosshatched. This is the 2030 Horizon Plan showing that area to be low-density residential. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on this one. Staff is recommending for approval on this.
Are there any questions for Mr. Todd? Hearing none, I will open the public hearing. I will note that no one has signed up to speak this evening. I would inquire if anyone present would like to be heard.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. My name is Matthew Benton. I represent Sequoia Forest, who's the applicant on behalf of Sandra Johnson and Gary Bowles. I'll try to be brief. Obviously, staff is recommending this. The property has been in the Bowles family for approximately 50 years. At that point in time, they believed the best and highest use would be a mobile home park, and they're seeking to change that for the benefit of the county at this point in time. It has some resources that are used there from the sheriff that go a little bit beyond the normal usage requirements. This particular piece of property has Mooresville sewer and water already, has easements across that property, and so that's there. Seeking to modify this once it goes into, it's in Tier 2 of the Mooresville 1 plan right now. So we're looking to go into some residential development there for a higher usage and purpose than what's currently existing at this point in time. But We believe it fits the Mooresville plan. We believe it fits with what is developing around it. There's, to the north is the Harris property that's going to be commercial. And so we have an area of growth, and we're just trying to seek to improve this property to meet the usage that needs to be in that part of the county.
Thank you, Mr. Benton. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
For your comments. Anyone else like to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask if there is a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request to release of zoning and subdivision jurisdiction to the town of Mooresville by Sandra Johnson and Gary Bowles.
Motion by Commissioner Hought. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Bowles, Mr. Benton. You're free to go. Item 7.2 is a public hearing to consider, I don't want to drive you out of here, you want to stay, that's what. Item 7.2 is a public hearing to consider an economic development incentive for Project Return. And Matthew, you could
Sir.
pull that up.
Chairman Mallory and County Board of Commissioners, thank you all for the opportunity to present this incentive to you tonight. As always, thanks to Beth Mull and her staff for their work with this project. Idle County Economic Development Corporation is pleased to present Yanjan USA LLC, an existing industry, also known as Project Return, for consideration for an incentive from Idle County. Yanjan plans to invest $5.2 million in machinery and equipment as part of a product line expansion. The company currently employs 102 full-time employees. Yanjan USA manufactures nonwoven fabric from polymer-based raw materials. They began operations roughly 2 years ago at 159 Walker Road, west of Statesville. Yanjan will be expanding their operation into 151 Walker Road, the building recently vacated by Hamer Fishbein, by adding two product lines and adding up to 50 jobs. In accordance with the Idle County Economic Development Policy, Idle EDC is requesting an economic development grant to Yanjan USA LLC for up to $85,844, based on a capital investment totaling $5.2 million. The grant would be payable over 5 years and is performance-based. Payment is tied to the amount of new increment assessed value generated from the private investment by the company. On behalf of Idle County Economic Development Corporation, I'd like to thank the chairman and commissioners for your consideration of this grant. Be happy to answer any questions at this time. I'd also like to note that Gene Consul, the CFO for Yanjan, is here as well, who could speak to the project and answer any questions you have as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Are there any questions for Mr. Pierce? None. I will open the public hearing. And no one has signed up to speak, but I would once again inquire of those that are present if there's anyone that would like to be heard.
Well, I was going to explain the project, but Matthew, you better not. Well, first of all, I'm Gene Consul, I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Yanjan. And Matthew did a great job of explaining our project. We started our company, actually I think we incorporated at the end of 2017. It's a 65% Chinese owned, and say the rest of it is US owned. Currently, we manufacture fabric for a global consumer products company. We make the fabric for feminine hygiene pads. It's about a $30 million revenue business. And we've recently got another opportunity with another global consumer products company to make plastic tubes, okay, in which cotton tampons will be put. It's currently being made in China. Cost of freight is very expensive now. Containers are like $16,000 a freight container to get here. So they're moving stuff back to the United States. It's not the biggest capital project you'll see, but it's over 100 jobs. I think we'll grow it. The company will be making this for expects 20% growth on this because it's an eco product, if you will, decomposable, reusable. And I know you're going to meet in closed session for this, so we just appreciate you looking favorably upon our project. Thank you.
Thank you. And could you state your name for our clerk so she can get that for the record again? If you could just state your full name for the clerk so she could get that on the record.
Gene, Gene, Conzel, Konczal.
Thank you very much. We appreciate y'all's continued investment in Iredell County and our folks. Anyone else like to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, I will close the public hearing and ask if there's a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve an economic development incentive grant for project return for a capital investment of $5.2 million by December 31st, 2023, and the addition of up to 50 jobs. The total incentive grant would be up to $85,844 or $17,168 a year, payable over 5 years, contingent on the execution of the grant contract within 180 days of this hearing.
Motion by Vice Chairman Nieder. Any further discussion?
I just want to say, anytime we can move jobs back to this country, that's an awesome situation.
Absolutely. Any further discussion, comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those like sign, motion carries unanimously. Item 7.3 is a public hearing to consider an economic development incentive for Project Keel. And Mr. Pierce, you once again can share the details.
So once again, Iredell County Economic Development is pleased to present ZND US, an existing industry, also known as Project Keel, for consideration for an incentive from Iredell County. ZND US plans to invest $3.6 million in machinery and equipment, as well as $1.5 million in on-site improvements, for a total investment of $5.1 million. ZND US currently employs 22 people. ZND US is the first US manufacturing facility of ZND, an international firm headquartered in the Netherlands. Manufacturers of temporary fencing, ZND US opened their Statesville facility in March of 2020. Their significant success in our community has led them to consider additional production lines at their James Farm Road facility. This project is in competition with ZND US West Coast operation. In accordance with the county's economic development policy, Iredell EDC is requesting an economic incentive grant to ZND US for up to $89,665 based on a capital investment of $5.1 million. The grant would be payable over 5 years and is performance-based. Payment is tied to the amount of new increment assessed value generated from the private investment by the company. The City of Statesville approved an economic development incentive grant yesterday, August 2nd. On behalf of Iredell EDC, I'd like to thank Chairman Mallory and the board for your consideration, and be happy to answer any questions about this project as well.
Any questions for Mr. Pierce? Hearing none, I will open the public hearing. And once again, no one has specifically signed up to speak. I'd inquire if anyone would like to be heard. Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask if there's any further discussion. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve an economic development incentive grant to Project Keel for a capital investment of $5.1 million by December 31st, 2022. The total incentive grant would be up to $89,665, $17,933 per year, payable over 5 years with contingents on the execution of the grant contract within 180 days.
Motion by Commissioner Brown. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those like sign. Motion carries unanimously. You know, this is just another example of following a very large groundbreaking ceremony for Doosan, adding $70 million investment and up to 250 additional jobs down the road, all good paying, not just jobs, but career opportunities. And it's just an example of these two companies, as well as Doosan, just what a diverse and diversified industrial and commercial base that Iredell County has of small, medium, and large-sized companies, and all of which are primarily attracted, besides all the normal things like transportation and water and a low tax rate, lower as Our tax collector, Bill Furchess, reminded us all again of any of the counties in our region. The primary driver for businesses is a workforce that is available and is ready to work. So as they move into the area, that attracts other folks to move into the area to provide workers from other areas of the country or from our region. So we want to thank our economic development team for helping us put our best foot forward and getting the word out about Iredell County. And we look forward to partnering with these employers going down the road. Okay, we'll now move on to administrative matters that are on our consent agenda. These are matters that we hear at our pre-agenda meeting at 5 o'clock on every meeting night. They are typically items which involve technical issues that are presented by staff and placed on for consent at the 7 o'clock hour. So at this time, I would ask our county manager, Ms.
Can we do the airport 8.2 first,
I
please?
thought we'd do the consent on all the others first,
Okay.
and then leave that.
Gotcha. I just want to make sure you saw that.
Oh, I'm not forgetting them. Okay, so item 8.2 was excluded, and all the rest of the matters, if you would summarize.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman Mallory. The first item is a request from Planning and Development to consider calling for a public hearing on August the 17th, 2021 at 7 o'clock p.m. in regard to a request by Howard Bryan to release zoning and subdivision jurisdiction to the town of Troutman. There was a request from the library for approval of Budget Amendment Number 5 in the amount of $10,990 and to accept State Library of North Carolina SLNC ADAPTS Easy Grant. A request from the library for approval to apply for emergency connectivity funding in the amount of $2,970. A request from Tax Administration to present the annual tax settlement and approval of orders for collection. A request from the Finance Department for approval to use American Rescue Plan Act funding for identified equipment and projects and approval of Special Revenue Fund Ordinance Amendment. The county construction project updated was presented, and that was presented in the packet, so there was no discussion on that. Education Task Force updates by each respective commissioner member. The Economic Development, there was discussion regarding the Doosan groundbreaking. Education, currently gathering information. We'll be having an Education Task Force meeting soon. Public Health and Well-being, nothing to report at this moment. Public Safety, starting the ecom study, and there will be a task force meeting in 2 weeks that will be scheduled. And then General Governmental, a report on the McGuire training exercise that occurred today. And then finally, the last item was the Board of Elections salary motion from the board for the Elections Director and Deputy Elections Director. Those are the items that were agreed by consent.
Okay, any further discussion? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A motion by Commissioner Norman to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. And now we'll circle back to our one hanging chad from the pre-agenda meeting, which is a request from the Statesville Regional Airport Manager for approval to expend $2,645 as a local match for a $47,610 grant from the North Carolina Department of Transportation to be used for an emergency generator for runway lighting at the airport. And John Ferguson, airport manager, is here with us. He did a presentation at the Statesville City Council last night, and this was a good opportunity to bring the board and the general public up to date on what's going on at the airport in addition to the specific requests. So, John?
Okay. Well, the specific request, and thank you, Chairman and Commissioners, for allowing me to come here and give you a little briefing. But for the request is for emergency generator for the runway lights. 3 or 4 years ago, if you remember, there was we had some remnants of hurricanes pass through, and there was lots of power outages and wind and damage and everything. And it got me thinking that if this were to have happened on a Sunday night when the race teams were all coming back, You got 13 airplanes with 50 passengers on each one trying to get back into Statesville, and if the runway lights are not working, they have to divert to Charlotte or Concord or Hickory. So we didn't want to let that happen because they would have to charter buses to get them back to Statesville because they got all their cars here. So we worked with the state to try to come up with a way to come up with a generator, and they were gracious enough now recently just to give us a grant for this generator. And it'll be installed on the taxiway lighting project that we have approved. I think we've already had that approved. The taxiway lighting project, the bids came in so good that we're now going to have LED lights on the runway and the taxiway and the generator and new regulators and a new LED beacon. So I think we're going to be one of the very few airports in North Carolina that's going to be all LED. So it's going to save us a lot of money in electrical bills. But that's for the grant. If you want, I can go ahead into the presentation if you like, or we can vote on that first, whatever you want to do.
If you can go ahead with the presentation, that'd be great.
Sure. So as you recall, back in February of 2019, the city purchased the fixed base operation from Statesville Flying Service for, I don't know, about $4.6 million, assuming two very large loans on the two recent hangars that were built in 2007. But recently, the North Carolina Department of Transportation did an economic impact study of airports in North Carolina and also had individual reports from each airport. We contribute $139 million economic impact to the county, 850 jobs, either directly or indirectly associated with the airport, $8.7 million in tax revenue from either property taxes or sales taxes, about 41,000 operations, and we currently have about 99 airplanes based on the airport. So we are a pretty significant player here in Iredell County, and we do all appreciate the support we all get from the county and from the city. Sources of our revenue, mostly our fuel sales is our largest income, hangar space rentals, rental of ground to people who built their own hangars, mostly on the south side, fuel flowage fees on those hangars that have private fuel farms, and then miscellaneous revenue, such as forklift fees. We do some freight on planes that come in bringing freight in. In fact, I just got a call before the meeting. We got a plane coming in at 4 o'clock this morning with 8 pallets, 4x4x4 pallets. Sounds like the same thing that flew in here about 3 or 4 months ago, diesel engine parts for Freightliner. So we got a little freight business tonight. So the Department of Transportation Aviation Division put together this little montage of activity from our airport. This is all the airplanes in 2019 that filed a flight plan either from Statesville or to Statesville. And every airplane that touches a state, that state turns from gray to white. Every airplane that goes to a particular city, if it's recurring, that little city dot's gonna get bigger. So I'm gonna show you what happens here. And this goes by time, so you can see at the very top of the screen, we're in January. All of these airplanes filed flight plans in and out of Statesville. And you can see, we're starting to make some of these gray states turn white. You'll even see on the East Coast there, you may even see a few airplanes heading to the Bahamas. There goes one to the Bahamas. There goes one to Seattle. One thing you'll notice about all these cities is that the cities with larger dots are all NASCAR tracks. So you've got Dallas, you got Texas Motor Speedway, Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta, Chicago, all the racetracks. Those are our biggest dots. But if you'll notice at Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma is going to turn into a really big dot. The reason that's going to turn into a big dot is because Champion and Victory Air, in order to take pit crews to the races on the West Coast, and due to our runway length, they have to stop in Tulsa for fuel. So they have their own fuel farms here in Statesville, which they get fuel at just about cost. But when they have to refuel in Tulsa, they pay, well, I'm sure they pay less than retail, but a whole lot more than cost. So this $9.3 million federal project we got to lengthen the safety area is going to cure a lot of those problems. It's going to save them a lot of money. When we get to the end, there's only going to be 4 states that we haven't touched: Oregon, Idaho, Alaska, and Hawaii. I just thought this was the coolest thing. I'm glad they did this.
Yes.
We're almost to the end. And this is pre-COVID, so this is 2019. From 2019 to 2020, which was our first full year of operation, we did sold 288,400 gallons of fuel, and that included a few months of COVID impact. In July of 2020 to 21, this past fiscal year, we went to 338,265 gallons. When you add the gallons from the private fuel farms on the south side, the NASCAR guys, the total fuel we pumped or sold on the airport was 1,022,000 gallons. These are a list of some of our more active customers. What we call the guest customer is the one-time or transient visitor. That's pretty much our biggest customer. NetJets is one of those private charter fractional ownership companies. NetJets comes into our airport at least 3 or 4 times a week. I don't know who's on the plane, but there's a lot of people chartering jets now instead of taking airlines. You see Randy Marion, Paradise Jets. Sir Mariners Purse was based here at the airport for just a short time. They relocated their jet from Wilkesboro to here for a short time while they were doing some runway work up there. Mountain Air Cargo, based in Dallas, North Carolina. Joe Gibbs Racing has bought some fuel. Ashley Furniture flies in a lot. So these are some of our bigger active customers. Back last fall, we had a couple of military helicopters land for fuel. And I told them, I said, it was going to take about 20, 30 minutes to fuel them. And I said, well, look, let me buy you lunch, because I'm big, huge supporter of the military. And I said, let me buy y'all lunch. And so I've got some pizzas and brought them in. And I told them, I said, if anybody else is in the area, please stop in, let me know. We'll get you fuel. And if it's at noontime or whatever, I said, I'll get you lunch. And they said, well, by the way, we're going to a training mission in Knoxville. We're going to mountain training in Knoxville, and a bunch of us are going to be coming through. So I said, well, just tell them to stop in, and whether you buy gas or not, we'll feed you. And we ended up doing 13,000 gallons of fuel, 250 gallons at a time, because that's about all the helicopters take, coming from Fort Bragg, stopping with us for fuel, then going to Knoxville, then coming back from Knoxville, back to us, and then back to Fort Bragg. So that turned out to be a really good thing, and we just support the military so much that we'll do anything for them. This shows the impact of what COVID did for us. Back when it started to hit, we normally average around 30,000 gallons a month, and we get into the winter months. Normally, November, December, January normally goes down because of bad weather and holidays and stuff. But then March, it trends back up. Well, March went lower, and April was the lowest we've ever had. And then a continuation, we got to see the June of 2020 there, and we continue to July of 2020. So we've been rebounding, and of course, there's the winter dip, and now we're back up to over 30,000 gallons average per month. So we've survived COVID pretty well. As you can see, jet fuel is our biggest product that we sell. If we don't sell jet fuel, it hurts. The red line is all the piston airplanes, the avgas airplanes. They kept flying. COVID didn't bother them. They just kept flying. And as I said before, we have 99 airplanes on the field. There's 67 at the fixed base operator, 27 jets, 2 helicopters, and a mixture of other aircraft. According to Iredell County, the value of the taxable buildings is $14 million. The taxable value of aircraft, $113 million worth of airplanes. And multiply that by the tax rate, the city gets in about $697,000 a year, county $684,000 a year. Since 2013, these are the projects we've had going on. We've gotten $29 million in grants from the FAA and state aeronautics, and it's only cost the city and the county each $253,000 each. It's been a very good investment, and it just continues on. At the end of June 2020, which is our first full year, we ended with a surplus of $231,407. At the end of just this past June, we were $554,000 revenues over expenses. That includes the debt payment for the purchase of the fixed base operation. So we really had a good year. If anybody had asked me, are you gonna make $500,000 this year? I would have said, no, you're crazy, because you're gonna expect that the next year. So and that is the unaudited number because we haven't finished the audit yet. But that's a pretty good ballpark of where we are. Our needs, this is our hangar waiting list. If we put all these airplanes in a hangar, we would have about another $18 million worth of airplanes based on the airport. We just don't have the hangar space, and you know, hangars are expensive, but it's going to be something we got to address in the future. The terminal building was built in 1988. It's only 4,000 square feet. It was too small. It was probably good in 1988, but all the corporate jets that we have coming through, it's just dated and small, and we just need a new terminal building. We've got some interest in Raleigh, in us looking into a terminal building, so we've started doing some pre-planning. Hopefully we'll have a little sketch or drawing of something that possibly could be built if we can find the funding. And it will be, in my opinion, it'll be the gold standard of terminal buildings for small airports. People will be coming to us to copy our building, I hope. And one of the first events that's happened after COVID, June 5th, we had the Experimental Aircraft Association fly in. They brought some warbirds in. Some other people brought some unusual aircraft. They had a car show, and 83 kids received their first airplane ride in the Experimental Aircraft Association's Young Eagle program. That was a great day, and they could have flown more, but they just ran out of time. And this is our favorite saying in aviation: a mile of runway will take you a mile, but a mile of runway will take you anywhere. And I appreciate your time.
John, we really appreciate your presentation, and it highlights the important economic contribution that the airport makes, and a unique contribution that sets us apart from some of our other Charlotte regional counties. I wonder if you could just explain one of the peculiarities relative to the air traffic control and what makes us a more attractive location for general aviation in particular, or any routine user because of the ability to get off the runway without.
Well, we're just outside Charlotte's airspace, which means that they don't have to talk to Charlotte Air Traffic Control. Everybody knows, people at Concord, people at Monroe, people at Lincolnton, they're inside the Charlotte airspace. Sometimes it can take a long time, 15, 20, 30 minutes to get clearance to take off from the airport just to get into the airspace. Our pilots can talk to Atlanta Center. There's a repeater on Barrett's Mountain. They talk to Atlanta Center. Atlanta Center just basically says, yep, take off, go ahead. But if they had to talk to Charlotte Approach, Charlotte would make them wait, sit on the runway until whatever it could be, and they're just wasting gas. So the pilots, everybody loves coming to our airport, and I think that's one reason why we're seeing more jets coming to us instead of going to Concord or Charlotte.
And the extension of the runway gives, as you were alluding to, the ability to top off with the full fuel tanks and not have to stop in Tulsa, but make a West Coast run.
That's right.
On one fill up.
Which is going to be more revenue for us because we get a fuel flowage fee off of them, so they'll tanker more fuel to get to the West Coast instead of having to stop halfway and buying it. So it's more revenue for us and a big savings for them.
And when is that construction due to be completed?
We think probably about next spring. We've got an awful lot of dirt to move in. It's just a dirt overrun, 1,000 feet, but it allows us to take the 1,000-foot penalty off the paved part of the runway, take it off, and we get full use of the 7,000 feet of runway.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, I'll let you know, I'm a pilot too, and I love Statesville Airport, and I like it because there's no tower.
That's right.
Every time I go to Myrtle Beach, those guys just like, they just want to give you a hard time. You know, you didn't call in soon enough or something, and I want the lights on.
Yeah, yeah.
So if people don't fly at night, don't realize what that beacon does for us, and at each plane, we're able to turn the lights on by our mic in our plane. We click our mic and it turns the lights on. So it's just unbelievable, what y'all do for everybody. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
But we'll circle back, and item 8.2 is the request from the Statesville Regional Airport Manager to approve expenditure of $2,645 as a local match for a $47,610 grant from the North Carolina Department of Transportation to be used as an emergency generator for runway lighting at the airport. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve that grant match.
And motion by Commissioner Haupt, who is our county representative on the Airport Commission. And any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion is approved.
Thank you, and I would
Unanimous.
say a great asset is for Mr. House to be on the Airport Commission. Great airport supporter.
Thank you, and keep getting the grants. I mean, they are
Flash
really
drive.
producing a good result for very little cost.
Thank you.
Okay, item 9 on our calendar, there are no announcements of any vacancies occurring on boards or commissions. We have one appointment to a board or commission to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, make that appointment, Dr. Scott Smith.
Motion by Commissioner Norman to appoint Dr. Scott Smith to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Is there any unfinished business to come before the commission? There's none. This is not a public comment period. Any new business? No new business. The county manager's report, Ms. Mull.
Thank you. 2 quick reports, just to let everyone know that we still have some boards and committees that we have not received any applications for. Those are the Farmland Preservation Advisory Board, Industrial Facilities and Pollution Control Financing Authority, Jury Commission, Schools Facility Task Force, and Nursing Home Advisory Committee. All of those are posted on our website. You can go to our website and read about those different boards and commissions and actually get the application from that website as well. If you don't have internet access and you want information, please contact myself or our clerk to the board, and we can get you all the information on that. So just to make sure, these have already been announced, but we have not received any applicants on those. And, this is a really good opportunity to get involved in your community, to volunteer, to give back to your county, and kind of see how things work and get involved in your local government. So I certainly encourage anybody that's interested to fill out an application and express your interest. The second announcement is that we are not unlike any other employer in Iredell County or in the state right now, that we're having some difficulty recruiting for some of our positions and openings that we have. And a lot of our employers in Iredell County are experiencing the same problems. So we are actually going to be hosting a public sector job fair. And that's really to highlight the public sector jobs that are available in Iredell County. We've asked the school systems if they want to participate with us, as well as Mitchell Community College. So we're going to be hosting this job fair on Saturday, September the 25th, from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. at Signal Hill Mall parking lot. We'll have booths that will be set up. We'll have our different county departments that have positions and openings. And people can go and learn more about those positions and more about our departments and get a job application and hopefully become our future county employees. That's all.
Very good. We had one closed session after our pre-agenda meeting to discuss an attorney-client issues pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 subsection A3. There is no actionable item to be reported out of that meeting. At this time, is there any further business to come before the commission? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.